Afternoon, everybody. So, how is everybody this afternoon? That's the big question. So here I am. Just thought I'd come on quickly. All right. Yeah, today we've had full of good news and bad news, really. All right. Bad news, not bad news, but good news is Davey Swift is free. All right. David Swift, who was put into section under Mental Health Act 1983. He actually should have been walked out at 4 o'clock today. All right, because he was discharged. Absolutely brilliant. But what else was going on today, which a lot of people are unaware, is a very good friend, Ian Briggs. There was an inquest into his son's death today, Gavin Briggs. Gavin Briggs, unfortunately, took his own life last year on the 3rd of July. All right. And a lot of people who followed me will know that I've been posting a lot about Gavin and how the child maintenance services left him with £150 to live on a month. All right. And how he had fictitious arrears of 26,000. So Mr. Ian Briggs today went to the inquest, and unfortunately, we knew it was going to be a struggle because the senior coroner, Jason Pegg, I'll share who he is. All right, Jason Pegg is the senior coroner, and we knew we were going to have a little bit of a rumble with Jason because Jason, at the end of the day, you know, there he is, Jason Pegg, Mr. Jason Pegg. He's been on many cases, all right, working department. He's a barrister, specialist in criminal law. So, yeah, 1994, all right, he sat on a lot of good cases. But one case he did sit on was where he sat on Jeremy Kyle. Yeah, and he actually accused Jeremy Kyle may have caused or contributed to the death of a TV show guest. Remember when Jeremy Kyle, his show stopped because somebody committed suicide after being on his show. Jason Pegg was the coroner for this inquest, all right? And he said Mr. Kyle is an interested person for an inquest, stating that the presenter is someone who may have caused a contributing death to Stephen Damond, all right? However, this inquest coroner today refused. He actually refused to look at the contributing factors behind Gavin's death. Gavin Briggs took his own life last year after the contributing factors of he was having let's be open and honest here. He had a bit of a relationship argument in his relationship with his then fiancée, all right? But he also had contributing factors. He worked for Hitachi Trains. Hitachi is the train company, which last week the veterans had a protest in London. And if you remember, there was trains taken out of circulation. Hitachi had to remove all their trains because there were safety issues. All right, and there were major safety issues with the rolling stock, with fractures in the actual wheels and fractures at the end of the day, servicing weren't being undertaken, and there were safety issues. So they were removed all the stock on a Saturday. Gavin Briggs worked for Hitachi, and a lot of people are unfamiliar that Gavin was one of the train inspectors, and he was a technician, and he raised his concerns with Hitachi. All right, so that was a contributing factor in itself, where Hitachi were ignoring Gavin's concerns, and Gavin was due to be released from service because he was causing too much of an upset to Hitachi. So that was a contributing factor, which unfortunately the coroner, Jason Pegg, didn't take into consideration. But what else he didn't take into consideration was the money he was left with hardly any money at the end of the month, and he had fictitious arrears of 26,000. Okay, and that was a contributing factor as well. As I say to everybody, mental health, right, is biggest life stresses. We all have mental health or mental well-being, and if money is the number one, the second one is relationships, and the third one is change. Okay, Gavin faced every one of them items, okay, on the 3rd of July. Unfortunately, Gavin is no longer with us today, so we're fighting for justice, and we wanted to get the answers because a lot of people commit suicide because of the child maintenance services. I've worked with a lot of people now who are on the brink of taking their own life because they can't see a reason to go on because they're not in contact with their children. They haven't got money they're working and they're not making any money. They can't get by in life, and a lot of them find it hard to live. However, today, unfortunately, the coroner just weren't interested in finding out the facts, and there must be reasons for this. For the coroner not to look at the contributing facts or the underlying causes to the death of somebody taking his death, it's unacceptable. All right, mental health is massive in the UK, and over 1,000 people commit suicide because of the child maintenance services and the way they are. Unfortunately, you've got the residing parent and the non-residing parent. The non-residing parent pays the money for the child, all right, and on a lot of circumstances is the ill treatment of child maintenance services the ill treatment towards the non-residing parent and the residing parent, because the CMS is a profit organisation. The only interest they're interested in is making money. They take 20% off the actual non-residing parent, the paying parent, and then they take 4% off the actual residing parent. So they make 24%. And as you've seen, we had a veteran, we got a serving soldier who's paying at the moment, and he's paying considerable amount of money for his children, and he's left with £200, all right, in a month. And this serving soldier he's had problems with his mental well-being, and he's contemplated suicide because the effect the CMS have had on him, all right, his relationship with his children, non-existent. Exactly the same as Gavin, all right. Money plays a massive part, and change, because change is inevitable, all right. So I just want to share today the story that come out, and it's all over various papers, all right. And this is what come out. The father of Gavin Briggs walked out from the Hampshire inquest, and Ian Briggs walked out because he'd been fighting and trying to get justice for Gavin. And as you can see, the father of the man who took his own life walked out of the inquest into his son's death after the coroner refused to examine the role of the child maintenance services. Rail depot worker Gavin Briggs, all right, 40 years of age, was found dead in his car in a secluded spot in Little Sunbourne near Stockbridge, Hampshire, on July the 3rd last year. His father, Ian Briggs, absolute gentleman, he's been on here many times, told the pre-inquest review during last month that his son had been chased by the CMS for 26,000, which he said was based on incorrect figures. Ian Briggs have been trying he's actually got a lot of evidence to prove that the CMS contributed to his son's death. However, the coroner refused to look at this evidence. He refused to look at the evidence of Hitachi and what that played on his mindset as well. All right. He added that his son also faced pressures from his employment with Hitachi at the North Pole Rail Depot, where he was undergoing a probation review. But Coroner Jason Pegg ruled out at the earlier hearing, as well as the inquest held on Monday in Winchester, that the examining of the CMS claim further was beyond remit of an inquest. Well, that's incorrect, because an inquest into the mind of an individual before they commit suicide needs to be established. And it's established so we can prevent it happening or reoccurring. We can start, because the coroner can make suggestions and can actually ask for things to be changed. The way the CMS interact with the clients. They have a client's charter, the CMS do. But the CMS are above the law. Nobody wants to talk about the CMS and the way they add fictitious arrears, the way they go into people's bank accounts and take money off them, and the way they go about. They're unaccountable. We have reached out to MPs, Secretary of State, and when we thought we'd get a coroner to look at it, the coroner hasn't. The coroner, Jason Pegg, how do you sleep at night? You fight for justice, and you're a criminal lawyer, you're a barrister. My question is, the justice system we have in the UK seems to be lauded for protecting corporates, protecting people with wealth, because what I've seen over the last few months is injustices, all right, and how people are being pursued, and people, the way they abuse power. So my biggest, I'm disappointed, to be honest with you, because Mr. Pegg made his ruling. Mr. Briggs Sr. left the hearing with his legal representative suggesting they would seek a judicial review. And I really believe that's got to be done. All right, Mr. Pegg ruled at the conclusion of the inquest that CMS and his employment were not Mr. Briggs' predominant concerns. Well, Mr. Pegg, if you have never been through a relationship breakdown, if you've never had dealings with the CMS, it seems to me you need to understand the mental health and how the mind works, and how relationships, money is a contributing factor in change, because you can't tell me they weren't contributing factors. Any investigator worth his salt would look at them avenues as well. Person of interest. Why haven't you called the CMS or Hitachi? And Hitachi had their barristers online today watching the inquest. If Hitachi weren't worried, they wouldn't have had a barrister watching. Okay, so you went and blamed Gavin's death or suicide on a relationship breakup, and what you said was that the inquest found you recorded a verdict of suicide. Mr. Pegg, Gavin Briggs believed his home life would crumble around him because of this. He chose to drive to Hampshire and end his life. It weren't that at all. There was contributing factors. Why did they argue? Why was the current relationship breaking down? And it was because of the CMS. They were a contributing, underlying factor. And you seem to miss the point. You seem to not be willing to take the CMS or bring them in and actually add them into the actual inquest. You seem to avoid Hitachi and why Hitachi was looking at dismissing Gavin for raising his concerns and safety issues, especially when they took the trains out of service on Saturday, the 8th of May, because of safety concerns. It seems to be we brush a lot of things under the carpet and we only choose what we want to choose to suit the narrative. What is the narrative? Why ain't anybody holding the CMS to account? The last couple of days in itself have been an eye-opener. How people use the law to shut people up. How people bend the law to make it suit themselves, especially when it comes to government officials. CMS are a law to themselves on a weekly basis. We are taking calls from parents who actually residing parents who are just not getting the service that CMS are supposed to provide. And we're getting from non-resident parents who are driven by the tactics, by the way their mental health and their mental well-being is being affected by the CMS and the way they are targeting their finances and the way they play with the mental well-being. And you actually today had an opportunity as a coroner, as a man of the justice system, to speak out for our individuals who are suffering. However, you would not speak out against the government you represent. You would not hold them to account. You're exactly the same as the members of parliament who refuse to speak to elected members who raise concerns. You're exactly the same as the people we sit in our government who refuse to listen to veterans and listen to the people who have allowed you to have your freedoms in this world. That's what I'm annoyed with. I'm stuck for words. I am really stuck for words because the CMS are a contributing factor. I am saddened for Gavin Briggs and his family, and change has got to come. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you have heard what we've shouted about and how people have been used and abused. It's time for us to unite as communities. It's time for us all to come together. And it's time for us to say enough is enough. Johnny Mercer, I've attacked him many times, has had his hands tied. Boris Johnson put him in a position to be the Minister for Veterans Affairs, the Office of Veterans Affairs, an office for Veterans Affairs where there's only 2 individuals which come out recently in a committee, select committee review. There's 2 people sitting in that office. They haven't even got an office. Boris Johnson, it took 2 years for Boris Johnson to have a meeting with Johnny Mercer to talk about veterans. Veterans are still going to be pursued in Northern Ireland. We need to come together, because if we don't, it'll still continue. We have coroners, we have legal systems. Nobody in power is accountable anymore. If you protest, it seems they will lock you away under the Mental Health Act 1983, as shown by David Swift sat, and I listened to the evidence today, Me and David will talk about the evidence, and it was shambolical. They took the freedom of an individual who protested. He had a right to protest. He had a right to raise his voice. And he was found, after they locked him in the mental health hospital, the actual bank who withheld his £400, his money, phoned him and actually turned around and said, how can we make this go away? We'll put the £400 back in your bank. We failed you. They failed David Swift the same way as Jason Pegg has failed Gavin Briggs and his family. That's all I got to say. There's nothing else to say. It's just saddening that we live in a country where a lot of people have given their lives, especially in World War II, and the other conflicts followed on, and people still fight in this silent battle. The people who are willing to give their life for this country, who are willing to lay down their life for you to have your freedoms, for you to go to bed at night, fight in their own little battles because they haven't got support. We have serving personnel being pursued who are contemplated suicide, still without any support. And we've got a government which can't see what they're doing wrong. There's no authenticity in the government. There seems to be no accountability. Do what we tell you and don't do what we do. That's what seems to come out. We have people in uniform in the police force. We have nurses, doctors. We have all our emergency services. I've spoke to police inspectors, and they've told me they have problems. They have people taking their lives within the services. Why? Why is the government, as an employer, under the Health and Safety Work Act 1974, you still have a duty of care as an employer to your employees? Why are you not? But you expect everybody else to work the Health and Safety Work Act 1974. Oh, but you're not accountable. It's wrong. It's wrong. Negligence, corporate manslaughter. People should be looking at that because you're negligent. Boris, when you come into power, I thought you had the balls. I thought you wore the trousers. But it seems you don't. It seems your fiancé wears the trousers in your family. And your fiancé, whose father is part of Tony Blair's foundation, or he's linked to it, she wears the trousers. Kerry Simmons, I believe her name is. So, questions have got to be asked. What the hell is going on? Enough is enough. Am I the only one? Well, I'm not, because there's a lot of people protest out there. But, we all need to come together. We all need to speak up. And you've got social media. Speak up. All right? Protesting, marching on the streets ain't getting us anywhere. We all need to come around the table. We all need to talk. I love you all. Everybody, have a great day. The big fish think they can do as they like to the little fish. Join together we will become bigger and louder. But we can only do it when we become a community. When we start looking after each other. When our weaknesses and strengths entwine and we actually grow. for a long time, protests have been going on. During the Roman Empire, they had protests going on. People spoke out. People sacrificed. So change will come. When I was in Bosnia in 1996, I was playing chess with an old Serbian. And I remember the old Serbian, he was quite old, in his 60s, 70s, the early 70s. And we were playing chess. And one of the first things he said to me was, the next war will begin in Europe, but it will begin in the UK. He said, you have so much going on. He said, Clive, it will begin. And I told him, no, never. Because you're the United Kingdom and we are united. The older I'm getting, the more I actually look back and I think that man was talking sense. Because it seems to be, there's no united. The government's not united with the people. The government's united with the corporates and the people with wealth. We have people, we have children undernourished. We have people suffering with mental health who can't get support. However, you're willing to lock somebody away who didn't have an issue, but he didn't have an issue with his mental health, David Swift, but he had an issue with speaking out about corporates holding his money. So all of a sudden, who did the step in for? Oh, we need to get rid of David Swift. He's causing a little bit of a stir for our corporate partners now, Nationwide Building Society. So the police went, oh, we need to put him in the mental health hospital. So they used these powers and they got rid of him. However, he took the bed of somebody else. Somebody else who was suffering from mental health lost out. Why? Why? Because you didn't like what he said. All right, so that's where we are. Remember, I love you. If you don't love me, then I still love you. All right. Gratitude. Think gratitude. And as I've said, I will continue to speak out for those who can't speak out, those who are no longer with us, those who are in vulnerable positions. I will speak out. Okay? Because I can. And that's where I am. I love you all. Have a great day. All right. Goodbye.